Hi, this is going to be a little bit of an intro based on color basing. And now I'm gonna restart the intros again. Three, two, one. Hi, this is going to be a video talking about using primer colors. Now I have my primers here on my desk. I have a lot of black primed minis. This is just a brand that I use. You do not have to use the same brand. And where's my white primer? I've got my white primer somewhere around here. Oh, it's out of reach currently, but I use the same kind of primer. It's a Vallejo. I use a white primer, I use a black primer, and I'm going to use a gray primer at some point because I have a theory that I want to test out. And if the theory is correct, it's going to be very useful to know. So, some minis you have to paint will be primed certain colors. Now, unless it's like a couple of these here. Some of these are primed white initially. Primed. I always want to say based and not primed because it's a different thing. So, for instance, these two minis were primed white. Now, before I went and did all the blood effects on this, it was a lot lighter color. So, when you want to paint stuff in a lighter color, that includes doing this leather work that I have on these two minis. It's really important to do a brighter color. Otherwise, let's be honest, you're gonna paint 4 layers. Trust me. How do I know this? Well, let's go on to these next two minis. And first of all, the red in this looks fantastic. Looks really good. This red does. I totally agree. It was 3.5 layers. Oh, 3.5. You can't put a half layer down. It was 3 layers of red paint. That's rough. That's rough to do. I've done this for a little over a year now. That's still not. It's not difficult. It just is time consuming, adds an extra bunch of steps and such. And not only that, but the leather color is different. This is the exact same leather that I do on my Krieg. This has a wash. Both of these have a wash, actually. They're both Angrax Earthshade washed. But one has a white primer color and the other has a black. And, I mean, it's literally the exact same color. This is a homemade wash, or leather wash that I do. And then they both got hit by Angrax Earthshade. I promise you, you can find them in videos of me painting these. This might be not so much. And then this color... Now, this is also dipped in a wash, but this is, again, a mini that's painted black. You see how bright this red is? That's 2.5, I almost said 2.5 layers again. That's 3 layers of paint. I promise you, if I started, I don't necessarily think I would have wanted to do it white because there's a lot of black on here that I want to keep black. So, a neutral gray would have probably been the best for this mini, honestly. Now, if you're wondering, well, this is just this guy's thoughts. I'm prepared to show you. So, I've got some minis here, and we're going to do metallics. We're going to do, I guess I could use this. We're going to do orc skin, some of my homebrew color, and I've got a lot of minis that we're going to kind of compare colors to that are going to be on both. Now, specifically, this one's a little bit different because it has to be base painted white because it has to be primed white due to the fact that I want this specific color, and this is a specific color you get for my squigs from using a transparent red. So it comes out a lot more red than you think it would, and then a layer of this will make it pink. So this is a special occasion. I did want to talk about that and such. So for instance, well, first things first, we'll start with leather. So we'll do the exact same two minis that are just primed different colors. This is High Marshal Dreer. This is a Death Rider. And so let's do... Oh, how did I paint that? Oh, actually, hold on. Let me grab a mini. It's over on my latest mini painted cam. So this is going to be my own reference. So the spear, okay, it's just Leadbelcher. So we're going to, first things first, we're going to take a look at Leadbelcher. His sword's going to be... his sword is not going to be Leadbelcher. He has a power sword, and I want to make his power sword unique. So let's look at Leadbelcher on that versus the Leadbelcher on his robo leg, because he does appear to have a robo leg. So let me get a brush. Make sure the tip's all good. We'll probably go ahead and use fresh paint for this, because this paint's been sitting here for a couple days. A wet palette is very useful. It's a highly recommended thing. So, we could just hit his auto pistol. We might just hit his auto pistol right now, because this is just going to be examples. So, when you've got a white primed layer, your metallics you're gonna see your metallics no problem. I promise you. If you got a black primed layer, it's gonna be the exact same thing. You're gonna see your metallics no problem. As a matter of fact, honestly, there are some advantages to having a black primed mini for metallics sometimes. So sometimes, like for instance right now, it almost looks, in my eyes, you can kind of see it a lot easier on camera than you can with me. I can almost not tell that this is painted because I'm getting shine back from it. So let me make sure the bomb lance is all the way painted around. And we'll go to the black based mini. Black based. If I say based, I mean primed. Please put the mental note in that in your head, because I'm never gonna fix that issue. I've been streaming for not a full year yet, and I always say based. So this is exactly what I was talking about. When you are doing a black primed mini, you can see exactly where that lead belcher is, even at this distance. And I'm going to zoom you in a little bit, because I should have zoomed in my camera before I started recording, and make a quick movement. There we go. You can see that clear as day. So there are advantages to doing this. Now, High Marshal Dreer is going to have some different colors because he is special in his own way, but he is going to retain a lot of the same colors. So we're going to look at more colors on this, and I'm using this as an example because it's making it so I have to paint these because I've been putting them off like crazy. So, for instance, my Deathcore uses a color called Deathcore Drab. That's the main color of their jackets before it gets hit with Angrax Earthshade, and I keep seeing more things I need to hit with Angrax Earthshade. So I guess this is going to be a little bit of a tutorial video on painting. So let's grab my Deathcore Drab. I just need a tiny amount, please. Don't give me a big sploosh. Just the tiniest amount. Any paint at all would also help. I always hate. There we go. I always hate these. So, for instance, these are really nice because they don't spill. Sometimes when the paint's thick, it doesn't want to roll down to it. So, the jackets on these will be the exact same color. So we're gonna look at what color it would help if I went ahead and took all the water out of my brush. I've been doing this for how long, and I still make these exact same mistakes. All right, so we got this. Let's get the paint thinned out. I've got my paint on my brush. We'll thin it out just a touch. And we're gonna just use this little corner here. So this is, yeah, I'm gonna do it like this. If I gotta make changes to it, it's gonna change later and it's gonna be perfectly fine. So this will be putting the Deathcore Drab on his little jacket here. And I don't know if this will be the final paint job. This is me doing this just as examples for people, because I've had a few people in stream now ask about priming minis and stuff, and here's a little video for them. I know specifically one person did kind of request it, and I have no problem doing that because goddamn is it sometimes hard to find video ideas. So let's keep doing this. And like I said, he is High Marshal Dreer. He is a little bit different. He's a bit of a higher rank and such. So we've got that on there. That is Deathcore Drab. Let's go ahead and put it on. I know this is a lot smaller. We'll do it on this side. Let's go ahead and put it on the coat of this one. I'm going to guarantee you, at the very sight of you seeing it touch the mini, you're going to see a load of difference. And this is the real part where it shows. You're going to see a higher or a brighter color just in general. Yeah, it brightens it up some. It maybe not as much as I thought. I haven't really painted any of this on black paint primed minis because I was gonna keep most of the horses white, and then I decided to change that at the very last second. I only painted one of these horses, so. But it's still going to change. It's still gonna make a difference. So let's go ahead, get all this slattered on. Also, highly recommendation. I'm gonna recommend that if you're doing these minis, if you're doing specifically these minis, keep the rider off, paint the rider, and then put him on after you've painted everything. Just save yourself the trouble that I cannot save myself on. And I've got like 9 of these to paint. Rip me and my concentration. Because goddamn, do I kind of do hate painting these things. But that's for me to deal with. I will get them done at some point. So you can actually see quite a bit of difference here. This paint's still a little wet, so it's a little shiny, but you can see a difference in color. And now you might say, Ryno, there's white spots in that. That's kind of the aesthetic I go for. There'll be you'll see, actually there's not that many white spots in it. Not as many as usual. But you'll see that there is a very high difference in color, just in darkness alone. So your undercoat matters so much. It matters a crazy amount of what you chose to prime with. For instance, and I'll grab the mini I've already painted, we'll do eye lenses. We'll look at eye lenses because this is another huge thing. So this eye lens is probably one of my better eye lenses I've ever done, especially on a horse. It's got a little bit of that dark ring around that eye, and it's got that brighter center, and it looks really good. So that's Blood for the Blood God, but we're going to show what Blood for the Blood God looks on white and what it looks like on black. So first things first, we'll grab a little bit of Blood for the Blood God. And just make sure you get it on there good. Let's get a little bit more color on there, otherwise we're not going to be able to see anything because it's just going to look black. And I'm going to go a little heavy on it, but that's perfectly fine. And so you can see it's painted. So we're going to let that sit. And we're going to do the exact same thing. Now, this is a technical paint, so we're probably going to have to let this sit entirely for the rest of the video, and we'll come back to it. So let's go ahead and get enough on this. See, I don't have to use nearly as much Blood for the Blood God because I can see how much paint is where. And actually, I think I got to touch this one up. It's really hard to see this color on black. And I've yet to do this on black. So, all right. So we'll set these aside. And actually, we will not set them fully aside because we're gonna show example of the leather color effect. So again, this is a homebrew leather. This is a really watered down leather color. I'm going to have eventually a video on my channel on how to make it. You see how it came out like water? That's perfectly fine. We want a touch of water because it's almost too thick with paint. And I really like this leather watered down like crazy. And so we're just gonna simply hit some of the saddle on this mini. And I do a lot of leather on my saddles, and there's going to be another night and day difference in this. And so let's just hit some of this. Did I hit that? Yes, I did. I'm going to make this leather. I do the same thing for his boots. I use all the same color leather for everything for the Krieg. So this is my color for my Krieg. This is specifically my leather color for all of my Krieg and some other minis that are not specifically Krieg. My Ultramarines are the only thing that are jumping around from different colors and different leathers and such. So already you can see how bright that is. You got a white undertone. It's a brighter leather. It's more tan instead of like dark leather. Now, for instance, High Marshal Dreer here doesn't have a whole lot of leather I can paint. Let me find some leather. Because goddamn, he's got a lot of stuff on him, but there's not a whole lot of leather here. Okay, there's a harness right there. That ties this down. So we'll go ahead and put the leather on that. I'm sorry that I should have picked a better mini, but he's the only guy I have primed in black for my Krieg, because most of them are primed in white. The only time I would say the color does not matter of what you're painting it, prime it in black, is if you were, for instance, I want High Marshal Dreer's horse to be black. I would never want to base paint it white. Gray, maybe if I wanted to do all the colorization for the black, but base painting it black would probably be the best decision I could do. So we got more leather over here than we do on that side, so we'll go ahead and paint this as well. And since this is more of a wash type of deal, oh god, there's robos in here. Oh, there's robotics in here. This mini's gonna be a little bit more difficult. So we're gonna have to let these sit. We're gonna let the leathers dry, and I'm gonna show you instances of red. Now, red's a little bit more of a difficult color to work with. So I have my homebrew. This is a Leviathan Dreadnought. I use homebrew. I use Legends stuff for my homebrew. It's just more for fun games. And a World Eater. What is this? 8-bound? Yeah, he's an 8-bound of some sort. I don't know if he's an exalted 8-bound or not. He is missing a foot. Don't worry, the foot is glued to the base, and I couldn't get that off, so it's permanently glued on the base there. I'll glue it back together when I get him painted. So let's do red. So that means I'm going to grab the same color of red. All right, this is burnt red. This is the equivalent of corn red for the most part. Let me shake it up before I put some down on my wet palette. So for instance, corn red is the base color of my homebrew. So we're gonna look at what that looks like on the Leviathan Dreadnought versus the white primed versus the black primed. I know the black prime's a little hard to see. I do apologize for that. I can't really do much. So let's just go ahead and we're gonna cover up the leather color on here as well. It's not gonna make a whole lot of difference in color on the white or on the thing. Now, remind you, this is the equivalent of corn red. I'm not kidding. Actually, as a matter of fact, I do have corn red to just show you as an example in case somebody is like, well, that's just a different color. Okay, I had corn red. Let me look real quick. It's probably on my desk somewhere. Actually, it's not on my desk, is it? It is not, and I'm blind. It's right here. I found it. So, corn red. Some of y'all have used this stuff. You know exactly what it looks like. Looks like that. Almost lipstick. I would call it lipstick-ish color. All right, so let's grab a dab of corn red, and we'll do the exact same thing. I hate Citadel pods so much. So, for instance, we'll go over on this side. So it starts out the exact same color, and you wouldn't initially put it down in this thick. I'm just doing this because, one, I don't want to thin out this paint, and two, it's gonna not really matter as much in the end. So let's get this all put down on here. Get this paint a little bit thinner, because if you have it too thick, it does eventually alter the way it looks. So let me get a bigger brush, because that's not the brush to be using for that. We're doing these big swaths. I'd rather do it with a bigger brush. There we go. Now we're getting some of that excess away. Doing this makes it so you don't get that, you get that excess away, and you're gonna use less paint in general. You always want to thin your paints. There's many ways to do that, and you will find your own way to do it. I promise. Trust me, it took me forever to do it. So that's pink. That's pink now. Both sides are pink. The only spot that was not pink was that spot that had a different color other than white. So you might then think, well, if I'm gonna do red, let's do black primer. Well, I've got no problems with you thinking like that, so let's try it out. That's actually not gonna be red, that's gonna be bronze. Oh, I hate chaos trim, no! All right, let's do the World Eater shoulder pad here. And I am usually pretty messy when I paint this stuff. Let's go ahead. I'm even gonna put this on thick because I know I already have to put it on thick. So let's get it all up in there. All up in there. Yes, yes, yes. Oops, need a touch more. And I don't want to keep throwing more into it because at some point you just need to, okay, let it dry. And that's exactly what we're going to do here in a second. I want to get in between these little teeth things. And yes, I know I've got to paint the world and all that stuff, so. All right, don't do a second layer yet. Sorry, force of habit. So, we're going to let that sit for a minute. We're going to go back to this. We're going to do a second layer. And I'm going to be really fast with it. You can see that I did not get all the water out of my brush. I need to quit doing that. It doesn't help what I'm trying to show when I don't have all the water out of my brush, and it dilutes the paint. Give me more paint. Maybe it's just the paint's being super watery today. Nope, I had water in my brush. So your second layer, I mean, yeah, it's getting darker, but there's still quite a bit of bright spots in it. I might end up painting this whole thing tonight. I doubt it, but I might continue to work on it more. But it's, as you can see, you can see your line. It's also, here's another thing. You can see the brush stroke lines in it a lot easier than you can with black primed minis. And I'm not telling you which to prime, what color to necessarily prime. I'm telling you, hey, look, there's an advantage to doing it one way. There's an advantage to doing it another. Now, corn red with one layer, burnt red with two layers in most places, mostly the top. Now, you can see the clear color difference of this one's pink, this one's red. It's crazy different. And I'll drop my mini. I'll even get corn red. I'll put it on my wet palette and show you. Okay, there's a slight color difference. You don't even see it. That's burnt red. That's corn red. There's the tiniest amount of color difference. So if you're gonna say, well, they're different colors, well, let's go ahead and get the excess off of this brush, and let's go ahead and give it a second layer. And this did go a lot further than the first one did, so it's going to be a little bit different. Let's just paint all this second layer now of burnt and corn red. I shouldn't have used two different paints. Oh well, it's just showing a point more than it is anything. It's not specifically, well, this paint does better with this and this paint. That's not really my point. It's specifically white versus black for priming minis, and if you should do a neutral color like gray. So that's secondary for that. Let's go ahead and hit the burnt red a second time in a lot of this spot because it did not get as much. Now I am gonna have to hit all this burnt red again because I do use corn red for my minis, or for my homebrew color, and the slight color difference will bother me more than it'll bother anyone else. So let me finish this. Add a little bit more. And you can still see right there where that splotch of different color was. And okay, it's very different colors. It's very different colors. In the end, you still see what I mean. These are red now. They're red. Neither one of them is pink. This one's a little bit brighter, but that's because it's different. So, for instance, let's take a look at this red. Now, you see the problem. There's a big problem with this. Trust me, I have a lot of black prime for World Eaters, and not only that, but I did paint Angron being a black primed mini. Now, when you've got so much like this on Angron, where it's going to be black, it's going to be gray, it's going to be different colors, that kind of stuff, it needs to be, I would still say at that point, base paint it black. Because when you're doing wings like this, you don't want to have to go and paint everything. This is also sub-assembly painting would be highly recommended for anyone. But there's a lot of stuff that's going to be black that you can't get to when you have them fully put together. So base painting or priming him black is a great choice. Now, honestly, I should have primed him neutral gray and went from there, but that's my thoughts. So let me go set him back. And I'll see how this is almost orange. It's not really orange. It looks orange in the camera almost, but it's still red. So let's go ahead. Add another layer of red. Because we're gonna have to put it on thick. I already know how to paint these minis, so especially with black as a base coat, otherwise known correctly as a primer coat. Come on, work with me. There we go. That's getting enough in there. And that's already kind of making it a lot more red. And that's about the color I like of my World Eaters. Now, there's a handful of things that I do to my World Eaters to make it a bit brighter color. But this is just the very beginning stages. I add what is the color I also add? I add bold pyrite red just a little bit in certain areas and stuff. And I also dunk them in soft tone. So it really helps on having whether or not to do multiple layers. So for instance, if you're painting white scars, you paint that shit white. Trust me, no one's gonna want you to succeed more than I will at painting white scars, because I don't want to fucking paint white scars. And I made the mistake of having to do white scar paint on, not specifically white scar paint, but this is a white paint on a black primed mini. This is a white scar hover bike. He is looking at the camera right now, kind of. That was the first attempt at eyeballs coming a little bit of slack, and I had to do 4 layers of this white. So this white's a little thick. Now, for instance, if I would have base painted it white, I wouldn't have, first of all, because it is a Deathwatch mini, and that's mostly a black paint job, so it would have been a waste of time to base paint it white. So let's go ahead and we'll grab, where's my white paint? I need to organize this fucking desk. White, there it is. So we grab white paint, just a little dollop. We don't need much. I'm using this as examples and not painting the full model with it. So let me find a, we'll do this because this is going to be painted metallic. So for instance, here's your black paint, or your black primed mini with white paint on it. And I'm already going a little thicker than I should. And you might say, why are you going so big if you're going to repaint over it? This is going to be mostly metallic. Well, it's all going to be metallic. So it doesn't matter as much. And I do whitewash, which is an actual thing. I do whitewash parts of this mini. I will eventually whitewash parts of this mini. So you can see that you can clearly see some of the black. The white doesn't shine all the way through. There's not enough paint there to get past that first primer that is black. Now, when you want to do white painted minis, prime them white. This is primed white. And let's just paint this knee here. It would also help if I got enough paint in it. How did I get red paint in this? Hold on, let me clean off my brush. I don't know how red paint got in that. It's going to be contaminated, so we'll grab my white paint again, grab a little dollop. And we'll just get some white paint out of there. Must have came off the brush or something, or the water. So then we'll want to just put that down in there. And now white's also an incredibly hard color to work with. Honestly, it's my least favorite color to work with. Other reason why I would never paint white scars is because it is a giant pain. So we got all that. So here's 2 of these dreadnought knees. Fuck it, we'll keep painting more. And some people dry brush white on. I can totally understand people doing that because it's like I said, white's a very difficult color to work with. So that's kind of, I'm not dry brushing necessarily. I'm kind of mimicking a dry brush to some degree. And I am getting a touch of pink on there. So which would be better if you wanted to paint white minis? This or these? These are, I will turn down the lamps. Oops, I turned them up. You can see that those are painted white because you can see the gray. So that's to show you that if you're gonna paint something white, base paint it white. If you're gonna paint something black, base paint it black. And if you're gonna do red, I would highly recommend gray. I won't highly recommend it necessarily because I haven't tried it, but maybe try gray. Gray might be the color. So let's set these set aside because we have a couple things to look at on these minis because the leather is dry. Now, oh my goodness. There's a night and day difference in this leather now. And you can't say I used a different leather because I have no other leather color that I use. It's a night and day difference. This is way brighter. This is way darker in a finished color sense. And you can say, well, that's a wash thing. Let's go to the eyes now. Now, I know they're both shiny. It's part of being blood for the blood god. But one of those lenses looks brighter and one looks far darker. And again, you can say, well, I want the one that's darker. Perfectly fine. Paint it. Paint black paint underneath it if you're going to do darker color schemes on it. If you're going to do lighter color schemes and say you want a touch of darkness underneath there, all you'd have to do, I can't do it on this one, but I'll show you. I'll show you how to almost achieve what I accidentally achieved with this one. With the dark, oops, wrong eye. With the darker lens almost around the bottom. Actually, it was that other eye. Because it's got that little darkened spot around it. So, simply, all right, you got your white eye lens. I'm going to, I didn't say I was going to do any tutorials and anything, but let's just grab a darker paint in general. It does not have to be black paint. So we're going to grab some, what is this? Deathcore Drab. And let's just throw some on. Just to darken a little bit of it up in some areas. Please, paintbrush, put some paint on there. Okay, so we just went that much. We don't want to go crazy with it. You can barely see it. You can barely see it because it's so bright, but it's right there. I did put drab on there. Now let's go ahead. You should really let it dry, but I barely put any paint on here, so we should be fine to go ahead and put some of the lens color. And you should also save these to paint them last. Trust me, that would help you in the long run more than anything. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. If I don't turn up the brightness on my camera, you won't be able to see it. Now, you can see there's a dark spot in that lens. If my camera wants to focus on the color, please focus on this camera. There you go. You can see that dark spot in that lens. And that's what you're shooting for, more or less. So just add a little bit of touch paint around the bottom end of the eye lens and you'll have it taken care of. So that's really all I had to talk about today. Hopefully this does help you in choosing how to prime your minis. I know people get frustrated on lots of things about this hobby, especially you know, what color should I prime it? What color, if I'm gonna paint this color, how do I do this and this and that? I'm not the best in the world to do this stuff. I just do this stuff a lot of times for fun. As always, I always have my very first mini on my desk. And if you might think, well, he just sloppily painted a mini. Brother, this is the very first mini because this is also the second mini I ever painted. I did not get much better, but actually I didn't get the best. These are not primed. And then let me find one that's primed. I took a break. No, I did not. I found him. I know exactly which one's the third one. And then we have the third one. And he for sure is primed. I know for a fact he's primed. So the first 3 minis ever. And I promise you, you will get better in skill. Look at the gold in comparison to this one. I did not touch up this. There's a lot of things wrong with it. So these are the first 3. And let's go to the 4th. This is just to motivate people to paint better. Oh, actually, there's another one. This one might be the 4th. I don't remember. Or this one's the 3rd. I can't remember which is which. This one's for sure the 3rd. I can tell by the color of the... So this one's 3rd. That other sergeant was 4th. And then eventually I figured out what the fuck I was doing. And these minis came out far better. This is probably like 5th, 6th mini in. Roughly 5th or 6th. So you've got this. Just figure out what your color scheme is. If you don't know for Space Marines and you want to do a homebrew chapter color scheme, go ahead and just go ahead and use Space Marine 2 if you have it. It does have a color. It tells you specifically all of the GW colors that is used in that game. So if you wanted to use Khorne red, if you wanted to use Corvex white, if you wanted to use Abaddon black, it specifically labels it out for you. And just a little like showing off, just as showing off a touch. This stuff is very fun to do, but goddamn is it challenging. I did this 5 months ago. If I can do this, you can do it too. We'll see you either in stream or in the next video. Bye.